to the community and to the people that they're with. Instead of saying that, and they were on the right track, I thought, when they said that if they are reaping benefits from the society that they're in, such as using the natural resources, such as using the employees, that they had a responsibility to those people. And I think what the opposition in this debate tried to do was show that they had a responsibility to the entire society, and instead they should have talked about specifically when Chrysler Corporation makes cars in Detroit and it uses the labor within that area, right, and it employs these people, then it has a responsibility to the community right then and there to provide better education, to provide better opportunities for the people that are working in that company, because, and this is where they would then tie corporate social responsibility into making it better for them to conduct business. If they could make more profit, if they could be seen as better branding, and if that corporate social responsibility would allow them to expand, then they should. And it's a slight chicken or the egg. Like, should companies make profit to then give away corporate social responsibility, or should companies use corporate social responsibility to also increase their profits?
Yeah, I see that, but the difficulty is, of course, the obvious question is, well, doesn't tax take care of that?
Yes.
Or couldn't you increase taxes and take care of it that way?
And I think they were on the right track when they wanted to say that tax would be too bureaucratic, right? And this is where their proposal created more problems than it created more questions than it answered. Because when they said that we're going to mandate companies to do corporate social responsibility, they never stated what kind of mandate, how much, what was it, in what areas, right? And the government was smart enough to say, well, we don't know what they're doing, right? They could be solving HIV/AIDS in Africa, right? It's not going to help the people within the community. Whereas the government knows what's wrong with the society, and they're going to take that money and apply it directly to where society needs it best. And I thought that was the slight advantage that they were able to say when it said governments are better at allocating those resources than a corporation, right? And so they didn't go as far as to say, look, corporations are going to be selfish. If Coca-Cola is only going to sponsor things where they know that people are going to drink, right? They're going to go to schools, they're going to go to where kids, they're going to specifically target their own market. They're not going to help anybody else in society, right? And so that corporate social responsibility isn't no longer charity. It becomes an extension of investment within their own market. And so it really isn't corporate social responsibility. That would have been a better line for the government to take. Would have really, really hurt the opposition. Now, in response to that, I think the opposition could have said that, look, we think it's legitimate for a certain industry to invest within its industry and to be responsible for their industry, to make sure that it grows. For instance, if I'm a company that sells textbooks, I'm going to specifically be reinvesting in other schools, right? And because I am dealing within that certain area, right? That's my ability for my company to reinvest within those corporations. So the government has the ability to regulate those corporations by allowing more and more corporations to be chartered in certain areas. Right? And I think they could have taken a much more proactive role in saying that we're going to force corporations to reinvest or do corporate social responsibility in the areas which they're involved in. And we think that they are the best people to know what's going to help their market, what's going to help their environment. Right? So if I'm somebody who builds cars, my corporate social responsibility is going to make sure that the roads are fixed. Right? And so that's ultimately going to help them, help their community, and help society much better.
Great. So you're basically drawing a distinction between the laws as they are now and their actual moral responsibility, and saying there's a gap between the two. There should be this reciprocal give and take that is not currently mandated by the law. Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah, and I thought that's what the opposition wanted to do, but it was the way that it was presented that was, I think everybody felt the same way. Like, okay, there's a mandate, but I don't know what they're going to do with that mandate. Like,
Right.
where's that money going? How much are they giving? Why is that going to be so specifically beneficial? And so in this debate, I thought, that's why I said it hurt them a little more than it helped them to say that. And it was just strategic in the way that the government responded to certain things. Like, they said that the law is okay, that the law will deal with this, right? And the opposition was almost able to turn that when they said that, look, what if we look at this mandate as a law? Why not, right? But they didn't give me the follow-up. If they had said that if the government regulates these things and it already abrogates those responsibilities to those corporations, for instance, we force paper mills, right, to make sure that they clean up their water before they pollute. The government is already abrogating certain responsibilities to those corporations. It's just a twist of words. I didn't necessarily think that the government's case was very strong, but I think the opposition wasn't able to answer some of the questions that they were posing onto them, right? And I think, especially towards the end, the Gov Whip was able just to show that, look, mandatory corporate social responsibility isn't going to do anything that isn't already done now. And it just showed how lacking the definition was on the opposition side. Even though that definition was just as much lacking on the government side, right? It was equally as confusing of what social responsibility was on the government side. It was just a slight twist of words that could have turned the tide for both teams. For the reply, we thought that the opposition's reply didn't necessarily push or clarify any of the ideas within the debate. We thought she tried to continue our argumentation, where the real role of reply is try to summarize and look at the arguments that you have won and look at the arguments that you are losing and tell us why certain arguments are a little more important than others. Right? And I think there were new examples that were still being thrust forward, such as EIAs in the opposition reply. We like to discourage that type of thing as much as possible, right? So we thought that those types of examples and that type of analysis was a continuation of debate versus a real reply, which is a summary and explanation of the debate, right? We thought that the government reply was slightly better in that he was able to distill the debate down into just 2 or 3 issues that would make it easier for us to value the debate, right? And to weigh the debate. Where he talked about, is it really corporate social responsibility? Is it really the government's role? Is it really the corporation's role? Right? And that's ultimately what an adjudicator wants to hear and wants to do, is look for those key questions. Is making a corporate social responsibility going to be better for the people? Is it going to be better for the nation? Is it going to be better for economic environment in general in the country? Right? Those are the types of criteria or yardsticks that ultimately you're going to use to figure out who won and who lost. And that was a slightly better reply, that's all, in being able to weigh up those issues that happened in the debate. How many of you guys thought the government team won? How many of you guys thought the opposition team won? How many of you guys thought it was a 0.5 to a 1.5 debate? How many of you guys thought it was a 1.5 to a 3-point debate? How many of you guys thought it was more than a 3-point debate? Personally, I thought it was very close, right? I would have given it by 1, maybe 1.5 margins, personally. Because I did feel that the inability for both teams to crystallize what the first question to me made it difficult for every other question to be answered. It is 5 o'clock. I'm going to take more questions. The PowerPoint that we gave you is online, so you guys can download it. Tomorrow we are going to proceed